Most women think collagen fades because time takes it away, yet what I see again and again is something far more unsettling. Two women can be the same age, eat the same foods, use the same products, and follow the same routines, but only one of their bodies allows collagen to return. The difference is not age, genetics, or effort. It is a hidden internal condition almost no one is told to look for. I'm Dr. Eliza Hart, a board-certified obstetrician and gynecologist with over 15 years of experience in women's health and hormonal wellness. And over the years, I've learned that collagen does not disappear simply because we age. What truly stops collagen from rebuilding is something far more subtle and far more overlooked than most women realize. When this internal condition is missing, the body quietly shifts away from repair, which means no cream, no supplement, and no collagen drink can truly do what we hope they will, no matter how consistent or disciplined we are. If this is your first time here, I invite you to subscribe because this channel is dedicated to helping women understand the real biological reasons aging feels different after midlife. And if you're watching from somewhere around the world, leave a comment with the name of your country so I can see how far this message is reaching. Stay with me until the end because I'll share one small but powerful insight about this condition that most women never hear, and it may completely change how you think about collagen repair. Now let's begin by understanding why age itself is not the factor controlling collagen at all. 1. Collagen is not controlled by age. As we move from the introduction into the core of this topic, the first idea I want to gently but clearly reset is one of the most deeply ingrained beliefs women carry for decades. From magazines to medical appointments, many women are taught to associate collagen loss directly with birthdays, as if the calendar alone decides when skin strength fades and repair slows. Yet from a clinical perspective, age itself is not a biological switch that suddenly turns collagen production off. It is only a background factor, not the controlling force most people assume it to be. In the body, collagen is regulated by internal signaling systems that respond to conditions, not to years lived. Your cells do not know how old you are. They respond to hormones, nerve signals, blood flow, and metabolic cues. This is why two women of the same age can show completely different patterns of skin resilience, wound healing, and tissue repair, even when their lifestyles appear remarkably similar. The difference lies in how their internal systems are communicating, not in the number on their driver's license. At the center of this process is the way your nervous system governs repair. The body continuously shifts between two broad physiological states. One is a state of alertness and defense, where energy is directed towards survival, vigilance, and immediate response. The other is a state designed for restoration, where digestion, cellular renewal, and tissue rebuilding are prioritized. Collagen synthesis belongs firmly in this second category, which means it depends on internal permission rather than chronological age. When this distinction is not understood, many women mistakenly believe they have reached a point of no return, when in reality their collagen pathways are simply undersupplied with the signals required to activate repair. This misunderstanding often leads to frustration because women continue adding products and supplements without addressing the underlying state that actually determines whether collagen can be rebuilt and organized properly within the skin. Understanding that collagen is condition-dependent rather than age-dependent opens a very different perspective on aging. It shifts the conversation away from inevitability and toward regulation, responsiveness, and internal balance. Once this foundation is clear, it becomes easier to see why collagen does not always respond after midlife, even with the best intentions, and why addressing the true biological drivers matters far more than chasing age-defying promises. With that clarity in mind, we can now look more closely at the specific internal condition collagen requires in order to rebuild at any stage of life. 2. The one condition collagen needs to rebuild, scientifically explained. To understand why collagen rebuilds in some bodies and remains stubbornly inactive in others, we have to move beyond surface habits and look inward toward the physiological environment in which repair is either permitted or quietly suspended. Collagen does not regenerate simply because raw materials are available. It regenerates only when the body determines that conditions are stable enough to shift resources away from protection and toward restoration, a decision that happens continuously and often without conscious awareness. From a medical standpoint, this decision is governed largely by the balance of the nervous system. When the body is dominated by a stress-responsive state, internal signals prioritize alertness, muscle readiness, and rapid energy access. Hormones such as cortisol remain elevated, circulation is redistributed, and cellular repair becomes a lower priority. In this environment, fibroblasts, the cells responsible for producing and organizing collagen, receive weaker activation signals, even if nutrients, amino acids, and collagen supplements are present in adequate amounts. By contrast, collagen synthesis becomes possible when the body enters a true physiological repair state, one in which the nervous system shifts toward rest, digestion, and regeneration. In this state, hormonal signaling changes, blood flow supports tissue maintenance, and the biochemical pathways required for collagen assembly can operate efficiently and consistently. This is not a psychological concept or a matter of mindset. It is a measurable neuroendocrine process that has been well documented in research on wound healing, tissue remodeling, and stress physiology. After menopause, this regulatory balance becomes more fragile. Estrogen previously provided a buffering effect against stress hormones, helping maintain repair signaling even during periods of strain. As estrogen levels decline, the body becomes more sensitive to prolonged stress input, which means the threshold for entering a repair state rises. Collagen does not stop rebuilding because the skin is aged beyond repair, but because the internal switch that allows regeneration remains turned off for longer periods of time. In clinical practice, this explains why many women feel as though collagen has become unresponsive despite consistent effort. The body is not refusing to heal. It is simply remaining in a mode designed for endurance rather than renewal. Once this distinction is understood, collagen repair no longer appears mysterious or random. It becomes a predictable outcome of internal conditions governed by physiology rather than willpower or age. Recognizing this prepares us to understand why collagen responsiveness often declines after 50, and why restoring the right internal state is the true starting point for visible change. 3. Why collagen stops responding after 50. As women move beyond midlife, collagen often feels less cooperative, not because the body suddenly loses its ability to repair, but because the internal environment that once supported regeneration becomes increasingly difficult to access. This shift usually happens quietly and gradually. There is no clear moment when collagen switches off, which is why many women continue doing all the right things while seeing fewer and fewer results. From a clinical perspective, this pattern reflects a slow change in biological signaling rather than a sudden failure of the skin. After menopause, the body's tolerance for ongoing stress changes significantly. Estrogen once played a stabilizing role, softening the impact of stress hormones and helping maintain repair signaling even during demanding periods. When estrogen declines, cortisol has a stronger influence on tissue metabolism, blood flow regulation, and cellular repair priorities. Over time, the nervous system tends to remain slightly more alert, even at rest, creating a baseline state that favors endurance over restoration. In practice, I often see women in their late 50s and early 60s who eat well, stay hydrated, and take collagen supplements consistently, yet their skin shows little improvement. What they have in common is not poor discipline, but a body that rarely exits a low-grade stress state. Fibroblasts are still present, nutrients are still available, and circulation is adequate, but the biochemical signal to actively rebuild and organize collagen remains weak. The system is not broken. It is simply responding to priorities set by prolonged internal tension. This is also why collagen responsiveness can fade gradually rather than abruptly. The body adapts to sustained stress by conserving energy and limiting processes that are not essential for immediate survival. Structural maintenance of the skin requires coordination between hormones, nerves, and immune signaling, all of which are subtly dampened under chronic stress. When this pattern persists for years, collagen pathways become understimulated, making repair feel increasingly out of reach despite continued effort. If you recognize yourself in this description, you are not alone. Many women assume they are doing something wrong when in reality their bodies are responding exactly as biology predicts. Understanding this distinction is often the first step toward changing the outcome. If this explanation resonates with you, comment 1 below. If it feels unfamiliar or doesn't reflect your experience, comment 0. Your responses help guide what I share next. With this context in place, we can now explore what happens inside the body when this repair condition is missing, and why collagen breakdown can quietly accelerate as a result. 4. What happens when this condition is missing? Once the body remains outside a true repair state for extended periods, the consequences for collagen go far beyond slower production, and this is where many women begin to feel that aging is suddenly accelerating without a clear explanation. The issue is not only that less new collagen is being made, but that the entire balance between building and breakdown quietly shifts in the wrong direction. When this happens, the skin is no longer simply aging with time. It is losing its ability to maintain structure. In a stress-dominant physiological environment, the body reallocates resources in a very specific way. Energy is preserved for essential functions, while long-term maintenance systems receive less support. Collagen fibers that normally undergo constant renewal are left more vulnerable to degradation, and the enzymes responsible for breaking down old or damaged collagen become relatively more active. This imbalance means that even existing collagen is lost faster than the body can replace it. At the same time, communication between systems begins to weaken. Skin repair depends on coordination between the nervous system hormones, circulation, and immune signaling. When the repair condition is missing, blood flow to the skin becomes less efficient, oxygen delivery declines subtly, and inflammatory signals remain slightly elevated. None of these changes are dramatic on their own, but together they create an environment where collagen organization becomes disordered and structural strength slowly erodes. Another often overlooked consequence is absorption failure. Many women continue consuming collagen-supporting nutrients, yet the body struggles to deliver them where they are needed. Transport mechanisms become less responsive, and fibroblasts receive incomplete or inconsistent signals. Collagen may still be present in the bloodstream, but without the right internal state, it is not effectively incorporated into the skin's framework. This disconnect is one of the reasons effort and outcome begin to feel so mismatched. Over time, these changes compound. Skin becomes thinner. Recovery from dryness or irritation takes longer, and minor stressors leave a more lasting mark. This progression is gradual, which makes it easy to mistake for normal aging, even though it is largely driven by internal conditions rather than irreversible decline. Recognizing this pattern is important because it explains why collagen loss can feel relentless once repair mode is absent, and why addressing surface-level solutions alone rarely brings lasting improvement. Understanding what unfolds when this condition is missing helps clarify an essential point. Collagen breakdown is not a sudden collapse, but a predictable response to prolonged imbalance. With that understanding, it becomes possible to see why restoring the right internal environment can change the trajectory, and how collagen repair can begin again once the body is given the conditions it requires. 5. When collagen repair becomes possible again. There is a moment many women do not recognize at first because it does not arrive with dramatic changes or overnight transformation. Instead, collagen repair returns quietly as the body begins to shift back toward balance and internal cooperation. This transition is not triggered by adding something new, but by removing the physiological barriers that kept repair suppressed in the first place. When the internal environment changes, collagen responsiveness follows naturally. From a biological standpoint, collagen repair becomes possible again when the body consistently enters a state that favors restoration rather than endurance. In this state, stress hormones settle into a healthier rhythm. Circulation becomes more supportive of peripheral tissues, and cellular communication regains clarity. Fibroblasts respond not because they are forced to work harder, but because the signals they rely on are finally coherent and sustained. Repair does not need urgency, it needs stability. What often surprises women is how subtle the early signs can be. Before wrinkles soften or firmness visibly improves, the skin begins to behave differently. Hydration feels easier to maintain, tightness diminishes, and the skin recovers more smoothly from daily exposure and minor irritation. These changes are not cosmetic tricks. They reflect a shift in tissue behavior that signals collagen remodeling has restarted beneath the surface. Clinically, this is where patience becomes important. Collagen repair follows a slower, more deliberate timeline than breakdown, especially after midlife. Once repair mode is restored, the body prioritizes organization and reinforcement over speed. Collagen fibers are laid down more carefully, cross-linking improves, and structural integrity gradually strengthens. This process cannot be rushed without undermining its quality, which is why consistent internal conditions matter more than intensity. It is also worth noting that repair does not require perfection. The body does not need constant calm or an absence of stress to rebuild collagen. What it needs is enough recurring time in a restorative state to offset periods of demand. When this balance is achieved, collagen pathways regain responsiveness, even if life remains busy and imperfect. This perspective often brings relief because it reframes healing as achievable rather than fragile. As repair becomes possible again, the narrative around aging begins to shift. Collagen no longer feels like something permanently lost, but something conditionally available. This understanding changes how women relate to their bodies, replacing frustration with curiosity and control. With this foundation in place, it becomes easier to understand why some women regain collagen responsiveness later in life, while others struggle earlier, and how internal conditions rather than age alone shape that outcome. 6. Why some women rebuild collagen at 70. When women hear that collagen can rebuild later in life, many assume those cases are rare exceptions, driven by genetics or extraordinary discipline. Yet in clinical practice, what separates women who regain collagen responsiveness at 70 from those who struggle much earlier is rarely luck or biology alone. The difference lies in how their bodies relate to stress recovery and internal regulation over time, often shaped by years of accumulated physiological habits rather than conscious intention. Some women gradually learn, often without realizing it, how to spend more time in a restorative physiological state. Their nervous systems recover more fully between demands, their sleep supports deeper repair, and their bodies do not remain locked in constant alertness. As a result, even though they are older, their internal signaling remains receptive. Fibroblasts respond, circulation supports tissue maintenance, and collagen pathways remain accessible rather than suppressed, allowing structural renewal to continue quietly in the background. By contrast, many women experience collagen resistance much earlier, not because their skin has aged beyond repair, but because their bodies rarely exit a state of low-grade survival. Years of sustained pressure, fragmented rest, metabolic strain, and unresolved tension accumulate quietly. Over time, the body adapts by conserving energy and limiting long-term maintenance. Collagen responsiveness fades not due to age, but due to prolonged internal conditions that repeatedly signal endurance rather than renewal. This contrast explains why chronological age is such an unreliable predictor of skin repair. A woman in her early 70s who regularly returns to a repair state may show stronger collagen activity than a woman in her mid-50s whose system rarely disengages from stress. The body responds to patterns, not milestones, and it continuously adjusts its priorities based on perceived internal safety. Understanding this distinction can be deeply reassuring. It means collagen recovery is not reserved for the young or the exceptional. It remains possible whenever the internal environment becomes supportive again. The body does not keep score of past strain. It responds to present conditions. This is why collagen repair can re-emerge later in life, even after years of stagnation, once the signals governing repair are consistently restored. Recognizing why some women rebuild collagen at 70 reframes aging itself. It shifts the conversation away from irreversible decline and toward adaptability and regulation. With this perspective, the next question naturally becomes how to gently support the internal condition that allows collagen to rebuild without force or unrealistic expectations, which leads us into the practical steps that help sustain repair over time. 7. How to support the one condition that allows collagen to rebuild. Once it becomes clear that collagen repair depends on internal conditions rather than force, the focus naturally shifts away from doing more and towards supporting the body in a way that allows repair to occur on its own terms. This approach is often unfamiliar because many women have been taught that improvement requires constant effort and vigilance. In reality, collagen rebuilds best when the body is given consistent opportunities to settle into a restorative state rather than being pushed to perform under pressure. One of the most important supports for this condition is deep, uninterrupted sleep. During restorative sleep, stress hormones fall, growth and repair signals rise, and the nervous system shifts toward a mode that favors tissue maintenance and cellular renewal. This is not simply about the number of hours slept, but about the quality, timing, and continuity of rest. Fragmented or shallow sleep keeps the body partially alert, which limits the time collagen pathways are fully active and coordinated. Equally important is reducing chronic overstimulation throughout the day and especially early in the evening. Constant mental engagement, late-night screen exposure, emotional load, and irregular schedules can keep the nervous system subtly activated long after physical demands have ended. Over time, this prevents the body from fully transitioning into repair mode. Creating predictable rhythms and allowing the body to wind down without urgency helps restore the signaling environment collagen depends on. Gentle, consistent routines also play a role. Collagen repair does not require intense intervention, but it does respond to regular signals of safety and stability. Calm breathing, unhurried movement, and periods of true rest help reinforce the body's perception that it is safe to allocate resources toward long-term maintenance. These practices may feel simple, but their cumulative effect on nervous system balance and tissue repair capacity is significant. It is also important to recognize that support does not mean eliminating stress entirely. Life remains demanding, and the body is designed to handle periods of pressure. What matters is whether those periods are balanced by sufficient and repeated time in restoration. Collagen repair becomes possible when recovery is frequent enough to counterbalance demand and prevent prolonged shutdown. Approaching collagen from this perspective often brings relief. Instead of chasing solutions, women begin to work with their physiology rather than against it. This shift creates the conditions collagen needs to rebuild steadily and sustainably, setting the stage for long-term structural support rather than temporary improvement. Collagen loss is often framed as something we must fight, but as we've seen, it is far more accurate to understand it as something the body withholds when conditions are not right. Aging does not erase your ability to rebuild collagen. Prolonged imbalance does. When the body is supported in a way that allows repair to return naturally, collagen responsiveness can re-emerge at any stage of life, often more gently and steadily than we expect. My advice is simple and steady. Stop chasing quick fixes. Be patient with your biology and start listening to what your physiology truly needs to feel safe enough to repair. If this channel has helped you see your body with more clarity and confidence, and you'd like to support its growth, a small donation can make a meaningful difference and help me continue sharing science-based guidance for women around the world. And of course, please like this video, share it with someone who may need it, subscribe to the channel, and thank you for spending this time with me today.